How are you guys holding up? How do you manage the stress and deal with difficult problems? Has it been stressful, exciting, both, neither, a relief? How are you guys doing as human beings right now?
Wow.
That's a really good question. I'm gonna let Jeff start with that one because I don't
All the
know.
Jeffs are dying. No, I think I'll start with thanks for asking that question. And then the second thing I'll say is like we're hanging in there. Like one thing that happens to me, I was just telling Matt about this. Like as soon as I ship any game, I usually get sick, which has happened because my immune system is just ravaged. And then another thing I do is I stare at the wall around 6 or 7 p.m. going like, I'm slacking. I should be working on something. So it's not like we clock off 9 to 5 or 9 to 6 anyway. Like my brain is on Forever Winter 24/7. But yeah, we're hanging in there. But we're also, making sure we take care of ourselves so that we can keep working versus completely just die in another week. I think it's a fair assessment of where at least I am.
Yeah. I mean, I think that's about accurate for sure. I mean, it's just been a roller coaster for sure. It's definitely been incredible. And obviously we're still pushing. I mean, there's so much stuff that we got into the game that was like a percentage of completion, but that we definitely want to push. So it's definitely trying to keep the eye on the ball for that for sure. But in some ways, it's also been kind of cool, like just taking like a little bit of a moment to kind of just kind of catch our breath. And it was funny, like actually we got contacted by a bunch of other dev colleagues at around the world as well, and it was just it was just super cool. And it was actually kind of like a moment too, like obviously to play the hell out of the game. That was actually really awesome too. It's just just been playing with a bunch of friends from everywhere, and that's been really cool. So definitely having more time for that has been really awesome.
Awesome. Yeah, one last thing I'll say is I know it's Miles and I on these videos and Mad, but like the team has been bleeding out as well just because they love the game. Like after launch, those 3 hot fixes, there was a bunch, like a ton of the team that was burning the midnight oil day after day to make sure all the updates that needed to get in, that deserved to be in the game, got in and were tested. So props to them as well.
100%. Yeah. I mean, if anything, like if there's like more like, other like art related questions and music related questions, I mean, I'm going to drag Jason in here because, he's been working with Sinclair, but it's very much like that soundtrack is, his baby. So definitely, I'm sure he definitely has a lot to discuss on that as well. So that'd be cool.
Did the early access launch meet your expectations? Were there any fun or exciting moments? Would you do anything differently?
I think it's a complicated question because I think it was more, in a lot of ways, we didn't actually have a lot of expectations. If anything, it was more like, we knew we were going to get a ton of like really useful, feedback as well. And it was just really amazing to just see all the different ways that people jumped into the game and kind of experienced it differently too. Like, so that was, I think, that was the really cool thing, in terms of like the number of people jumping in, it's been fucking insane, which is awesome. So like that was really cool. And if anything, like, the big challenge now is just, vindicating that faith. Right. So, that's going to be the big one. So yeah, I didn't have like a specific magical number where it's like, yeah, it was more like, I'm just glad people dig the same stuff we do. And, I'm hoping it inspires a lot of people to make a bunch of really cool shit as well. So I'd say all positive on that front. Like, let's keep it going.
Yeah. What Miles said. before we launched, I remember being in a meeting and I was thinking of ridiculous clinical examples like we will sell 0 units and everyone will say we're all terrible human beings, or every single human being on the planet will buy 10 copies and we will be the second coming. I'm like, neither of those is likely. We'll be somewhere in the middle, but I don't know where we'll land.
Yeah. I mean, honestly, we tried a lot of crazy shit, and if anything, I'm just really happy with I really appreciate like the patience as well. Like, there's some stuff in there where I was like, how the fuck did we miss that? Right. Not to be psychotic, but it was also like, well, shit, like we're on it. We're fixing it. Like it's basically just, pushing it, as far as we can. Right. So that's the big one. And I mean, honestly, like that support is allowing us to stay, independent. So, I mean, that's fucking huge as well. Like that's actually allowing us to do stuff like the mule, like some of the cool updates that we're going to have. We'll probably put out a video next week. So yeah, no spoilers, but it'll address some of the shit for sure.
First of all, I want to say amazing work. You've really made something that's different, has soul, and stands out, and I'm enjoying the hell out of the game. I wanted to ask if there was any sort of roadmap or upcoming features you could share soon. I'm itching for new content and I know it's coming. It would just be nice to have a sense of when and what is on the way.
Totally. No, definitely. Thank you for the kind words. More of a complicated answer. So the maps are definitely like the ones that we teased in like the Declaration of War video. Like that's absolutely like, targeted, so that's definitely coming out very shortly here. And we're working on updating a lot of the features in the game. There's a lot more, like tuning elements, like with a lot of the weapons, a lot of new weapon attachments. Carlos has been on the grind there. I mean, even literally like 15 minutes ago, we were having a conversation about, aftermarket AK parts for sure. So there's definitely a lot of cool shit on the horizon there. And then actually one of the big ones is, like looking at like some of like the mini bosses and just looking at like where the AI is at right now and where we want to push it. And we really want to make a lot of those characters like super unique, not only visually, but also with, secondary like functions of gameplay. And actually, I can kind of probably tease that like Fiona's been on the case, like updating a lot of the sync kills and adding additional sync kills for some of the enemies to make them a lot more vicious. So definitely some fan favorites are going to be in there for sure. I know the cultists will be very happy. Definitely. So Fiona's been on the case. She's killing it.
Yeah, and as for like a full-fledged roadmap, kind of like what Miles said, is that's we have one. It's being adjusted based on what we need to do.
I mean, there's so much cool shit that we definitely want to add. Certainly on the lore side, we're definitely really excited to start rolling that out. Hopefully in November. And then of course like new quests. I mean, that's one of the big ones. Like that's how we can organically grow the world. But Operation right now, it's like respond to a lot of the feedback, where you guys are getting like stubbed toes and, pock marks in the maps. It's like, want to clean that up first. And, Ludo, one of our level designers, fucking master, a super, super cool dude. He's also one of the guys that's actually setting up some of the scenarios. So it's kind of like, I don't want to rob from Peter to pay Paul in that situation. So that's definitely something we're keeping an eye on.
Will there be more in-depth mechanics added, such as hiding in shadows and or throwing things as a distraction to make enemies move out of the way?
Yes. And actually, I thought that was really cool. Like Rilo was already experimenting with that by using like a suppressed weapon. And so, he was kind of basically like testing the limits of like the awareness system. So he put like, a suppressed round downrange, and then some of the units in that area would go in and investigate that. So yeah, we're definitely looking at expanded stealth mechanics for sure. So looking forward to rolling those out after, put out the fires.
Exactly. Miles and I were just talking about something like that earlier today, and I kind of want to leave it there because I don't know where it's going to go, but there's some exciting stuff that's cooking.
Kids want to be that guy. They want the power fantasy. Personally, I'm hoping to lean more into the out of your depths, panicking, piss sweating pants sort of vibe. How will you guys temper expectations and resist the community mob that may call for the wrong kind of buffs?
Generally speaking, there's a lot of strategies in terms of like nerfing weapons and a bunch of other bullshit like that. I have less of an interest in that personally. I feel like if anything, we're just going to make the enemies like meaner and more vicious and expand on the utility that they can actually do, right? So one of the things that I don't know if people picked up on is like there's not a lot of like missile-based attacks right now currently, and that's definitely something that we want to explore, and certainly like more vicious sync kills and behaviors, and also. Well, I don't want to give away too much. So I will simply say we definitely want to expand on that. There's a lot of ways of making the enemies meaner without it just being like, oh, okay, we're gonna add like a lot of points to their HP, or we're gonna make this gun suck. So we're definitely exploring those. Jeff, I don't know. I know you probably have some really complex thoughts on this subject as well.
No. I think I'll keep it simple. It's like we're going to just stay true to the fantasy. On the other side of the fence, on what Miles is talking about, we're not going to all of a sudden like triple the player's HP or damage output. Like that's not what the game is, right? Like, and if we add it, like we just talked about, like stealth mechanics. If anything goes in, not that we will pee in our own soup, but like we'll make sure that the AI reacts to it intelligently, so you still feel like you got the utility out of whatever we add, but it's still true to the core game. And it's part of why I'm excited about like continuing to build upon like the scenario system and the way the AI even helps itself. Is it's at its core designed to react to aggression. So I think anything we do, we'll keep that in mind for sure.
It's interesting because I mean I've definitely seen some like really coordinated like kill teams, like fully loaded out with like MGs, like, running around and killing as much as they can. And I think like that is fine too, because I know that fantasy is like, honestly, like in our game is generally well earned, because I think the vast majority of people acknowledge that the game is hard as fuck, right? Which is exactly what we wanted it to be. So like if you have like your, Spec 4 team and everybody's got like MG34s, then like that's totally cool. And when more hunters show up in the future, or hunters that do different shit that fuck you up, then that will also be well within the realm of fair play, right? So I think it's a balancing act, right? But I think if anything, that's like an exciting challenge. And to me, I just see it as like more of an excuse to expand the world than, an excuse to kind of contract what we currently have in there.
100%.
Currently, the game loop is fun, but cycling missions gets repetitive after a few hours. What is the plan with character progression? Will it be more detailed with missions to get access to gear and more upgrades, allowing for a different playstyle? Currently, it is quite easy to cheese stuff with a grenade launcher and RPK without too much punishment.
Interesting question. Short answer, yeah, we're definitely planning on expanding a lot of the missions, and also the way that we interact with some of like the bigger enemies as well. So we're definitely looking at exploring, expanded utility on that front, and also the consequences of that. Right? It's going to be fun. Go ahead, Jeff. You're good.
Well, another piece of at least what I understood from the question was about the character progression, and yeah, that definitely is basically what I'll call phase one that's out there right now. Like the character progression trees have a much will continue to expand and have a lot of utility in terms of this character is good at these things if you grow them in this way. That's something we'll continue to grow.
Yeah, no, I absolutely agree.
Will the maps be expanded to be larger and have more dynamic environments and exploration options, such as buildings that can be entered and risk close range engagement, or large boats filled with enemies that lead to better loot or extraction?
Short answer is eventually. Longer answer is we want to build out like our core maps first, and we definitely have plans on expanding on new potential dungeons that would be connected to those larger hub and spoke maps for sure. So it's definitely something we want to play with. But step one, we got to build the whole map, which is all those other geographic regions, and then even in that scenario, like, there's definitely other continents that we want to visit as well in the future. But step one, we have to survive today.
Yep. I'll even say like a lot of those locked maps on your map right now that you can't access yet, the play style will it's not gonna be night and day, but there is more close quarters or different things that you're going to be required to do depending on which one we're talking about. So yeah, the variety, the environment will also lend itself to specific play styles for sure.
Are there any plans to add more marksman weapons? I really would like to decimate people via 50 cal at range without scope being inside the gun.
Well, there's already a couple.
Yeah.
Like we can't. The short answer to that, which may not actually scratch the specific itch, is the firearms and the firearm customizations will continue to grow for a long time and potentially exponentially if we do what we want to do. And so yes-ish, although I don't have specific details on the exact gun and customized loadout you want, but yeah.
Yeah, I mean, Carlos was actually working on another like Europa proprietary DMR that's absolute beast. So yeah, if anything, there's definitely going to be expanded utility on that front for sure. But the crux of it is like kind of have to grow it as we go.
What is the ETA on the water system update? You said you are listening to player feedback and ideas. Any in particular that catch your fancy?
Definitely, yeah. God willing and shit not being incredibly crazy with other fixes, we're planning on putting out some information on that sometime next week. So yeah, no, it's going to be really cool. We definitely have some really interesting ideas on like expanded utility. And we definitely heard you guys on like more uses for the water as well. That'll probably be like a longer term strategy as we work it into like the, general economy of the game. I'm definitely super excited by that prospect too. And it might be tied to things that you can unlock for the hub that are unique to that, or potentially offensive capabilities for the big boys. Obviously, we'll keep that under wraps for now. I can definitely say that it's robot related, and I can definitely say that it's villain related as well. So yeah, we were definitely looking forward to sharing some news on that very shortly.
Yeah, I think it's fair to say that water is potentially the biggest feature set that we've been talking about recently. And I won't spoil anything about it, but we've definitely been looking at player agency as well.
I know this question is early, but do you have plans for what endgame will look like for players? Is it just endless questing and fighting to survive, or will there be some other system put in place to still challenge players with maxed out water reserves?
Short answer is definitely, and how it kind of ties into like the larger combat ecosystem. Yeah, there's definitely some really cool ideas there, but you know, as stated before, step one, survive, right? That's the big one.
Will you be implementing a switch shoulder camera option? I like the current camera angle, but if there would be an option to switch shoulders, it would make gameplay a whole lot better and more immersive.
Yeah, I mean, we're definitely exploring it for sure. And we definitely want to make sure that it's like, you know, has some kind of like an in-world solution as well. So that was definitely some good feedback. And we got that, you know, from, you know, some of the feedback that we got from some of the content streamers as well. So it's definitely something that we want to include. Absolutely.
Yes.
It's obvious why there is no mini map in the game, but I think it would not only be fitting but funny to add a dink piece of paper to help you with certain missions.
Oh my gosh, I got to share that with Kai. He would love that. Yeah, no, for sure. I think that could be fun. If anything, you know, there's definitely something kind of like the Aliens like ping scanner as well. That we were looking at exploring at a future point, but that might be like either character class specific, or it could be like a rig attachment, that kind of thing, that would help with identifying targets and whatnot. But we also don't want too much overlap with like the tac scanner either. So it's like just figuring out like, you know, what is the balance for stuff that's like purely on like the mood end of the spectrum versus like, you know, like utility where you guys can actually get like some tactile use out of it. So yeah, no, I mean, I think that'd be rad as well. But I do love that people are already making these really cool, like comprehensive guides and shit. That's rad. It's funny because like some of these enemies, I'm like, oh shit, like that's where he's at. Like, I don't know. It's been super exciting.
Are there any plans on adding big credit sinks, like very high-end equipment, or adding something like implants, which are expensive and would be lost after death?
Absolutely. Yeah, definitely. No, it's definitely something we want to explore. Jeff, go for it, dude. You got a much better answer than me.
No, the first answer is yes. The second answer is, honestly, we're going to be evolving the economy. Even if you just think about tuning, based on what we're watching occur in everyone's games, it's part of the benefit of early access. It's not like we just like pooped those numbers into the game, but they were our best guess based on our eternal play. And it's really interesting to see how people are using the credits and what kind of war chest people are building, and where they're applying their money towards. So I also don't just think of the economy as credits buy you stuff. It's also an economy of time and effort, right? Like this quest is hard and gets you this thing, or this much experience is hard to acquire, so it unlocks this skill per prestige level, whatever. So yeah, all of that is under review right now, as well as additional features to consume with all those resources. And even like the innards itself as well is another thing we're looking at in terms of how people are using that, and are they just like eventually consuming everything, or are there certain things they aren't getting? All that kind of stuff we're looking at.
Are there plans to expand into more non-violent options during gameplay, primarily to enhance stealth options, smoke grenades, camouflage, noisemakers, etc., as I would love to see more interactivity with enemy factions other than just killing them?
Absolutely, both on the quest side, on the lore side, and certainly on like the equipment side. Equipment is the hardest because obviously it has to tie into all of the existing overlapping systems. But yeah, we definitely want to mess with that for sure. Like I'm really looking forward to the cigarette quest where, you know, you can, you know, deliver supplies to some of the frontline troops, and you know, they'll be like, maybe they'll have your six next time. Maybe they won't shoot you on sight. Obviously, this is tying into a lot more complex underlying systems, so we don't want to it to get too muddy too quickly. But we're definitely exploring that for sure.
Absolutely. I don't want to give away too many details, but yeah. All our verbs won't be bullets.
Yes.
What are your current plans for AI behavior? Are we going to have infantry soldiers recognizing they can't take down mechs by themselves and retreating, taking cover animations and tactics, flanking you if you're in an entrenched position, possibly super friendly soldiers backing you up in firefights against common foes? There are going to be a lot of improvements in the AI space. I am just hoping we can have the difficulty upped in this game by having the enemies be hard to fight while also being moderately realistic and not artificially inflated with stats.
Short answer, I want that as well. So yeah, I mean, it's definitely, we're looking at, you know, where we can, you know, kind of like buff a lot of that. So it's definitely something that we're definitely keeping a keen eye on. But that actually also dovetails into the other part of the conversation. So like the biggest challenge is figuring out where the load balancing is going to be on a performance side. And so, for example, if there's like a ton of EQS checks and a bunch of other components like to that end, then it can get very heavy very, very quickly. These are some of the issues we ran into with the chopper for sure. Definitely issues that I'm sure we're running into with like the infantry. So it's really trying to figure out like where is the line, because we could lean into the most advanced AI that we have running in, you know, any one time in the simulation, but then it would also prohibit it for a lot of the users that are already having issues with hardware specs and just general shitty performance on our part across the board. So I want to make sure that there's a balance, and that's been like the biggest part of the calculus. So right now, just looking at like, for example, with like, you know, the current push with like the hot fixes, a lot of that was like, okay, you know, core networking challenges, you know, digging into like quality of life components, because a lot of that was, you know, closer to like low hanging fruit. The biggest challenge is going to be improved artificial intelligence. It's obviously something that we're aware of, and that's actually where a lot of the support that you guys have given us, a lot of those resources are going to be going into bolstering that as well. Short answer, dude, love to see flanking. Absolutely, it's on our radar. Cover usage, it's going to be a little bit of a balancing act. Even just like if you think about like Halo 1, like the roll away from grenade, you know, like it created some really, really interesting like tactical movement patterns, and they didn't need to have like the full suite of like, you know, going prone and like, you know, radio guys calling in for an airstrike in your position. Those are definitely things, and we definitely prototype a lot of that shit. But on the flip side, it's like stacking that on top of people already getting hammered into the ground didn't necessarily make it a better game experience. So we're just trying to be very strategic and looking at like macro improvements for artificial intelligence, macro improvement for, you know, basically getting LOS on the target and other components like that. So yeah, probably long-winded. Sorry about that, guys. But yeah, we're definitely trying to be really smart with that, because we don't want it to be like perfect, but only if you have like the highest NPC in the fucking world. We want it to be like generally pretty playable for the largest number of people that we can. And you know, it's painful because obviously we're using cutting edge technology, but by the same token, you know, I'm very happy with the results we got so far, and they're only going to get better. So I see that as a positive.
I think one last thing that I'll touch on that the person who asked the question asked is, I agree that if the only tool in your AI adjustment toolbox you use is their hit points or damage output, you can end up with tanks really quickly, which are just not interesting. So not that those numbers won't change, because the second I promise you they won't, they will. But yeah, that's not the only tool we're going to use for sure. I agree.
What is the intention behind the hunter-killer mechanic? It sometimes feels like we're being punished for looting, which feels antithetical to the goal of the game. I'd understand if hunter-killers get deployed if we kill too many units or overstay our welcome, but picking up one water triggering hunter-killers just ends the run before it can even get started.
So the hunter-killers are designed to basically respond to either extended aggression or really aggressive looting. Even as far as Hotfix 3, we're still iterating on just like fundamental tuning on what triggers what and when. It's never going to go away, but I think if you've been playing recently, it should feel at least different, and we'll keep iterating on it.
Will you be updating the enemy spawn conditions? Playing a game based on stealth is pretty annoying when you use all your stealth abilities and then have a random squad of enemies spawn right on your position. It is quite disheartening having snuck around and avoided enemies for the whole round only to be killed at the end by a squad that spawns right on top of you.
We will adjust.
Short answer. Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, no, it's definitely overlapping fields with a scenario system, and then sometimes, you know, it can be a host of other factors. But long story short, yeah, we're definitely looking at tuning the shit out of that, and it's going to be, you know, continuously tuned for hopefully, you know, many years to come.
And one other thing I'll say is it's something that's also we're looking at not just when they spawn, but we're looking at the network conditions to make sure that's doing what we need it to do as well. So yeah, all of that's being addressed and looked at.
Can we add a buy/sell all button soon, as well as a loot all button?
There is a loot all button. You just don't know what you got. It's right there when you're seeing everything discovered. There's a big orange loot all button. Click that sucker. Buy all and sell all. I actually talked to Kai recently. I'm not going to commit to it for the next update, but it is under discussion because I think there is utility there as well.
Definitely. Yeah. I mean, I think it definitely falls into the category of like a really cool like quality of life component, especially for, you know, if you're doing like, you know, quick like rat runs, you know, just kind of like here and there, then it's definitely super helpful to be able to sell it. I think it's also going to be like a little bit of a balancing act because like certain vendors have different values for items. And so it's just one of those things where I want to make sure that it's, at least structured in such a way that it's actually like a quality of life improvement versus it just being like, well, you sell everything to Bunko, and Bunko's always got your 6, but by the same token, it might not give you the best rates, right? So I just want to make sure that it's got some sanity check in there.
But again, as a reminder, if you want good news, Loot All exists. Enjoy.
When will Gunhead be releasing?
Totally down to answer this one. Very soon. It's definitely before the end of the year, and sooner than we think. So I'm definitely. I mean, he's one of my favorite characters. Like, Riel knocked it out of the park. It's freaking, baller in hell. So yeah, I think it's gonna be right. It's really just making sure that like the gameplay utility was unique and balanced. And that was kind of the big one. But you might see his brothers very, very soon, actually considerably sooner than he himself. So I think it'll be cool.
Can we get a free look button? I find when I am trying to sprint away from enemies that it would be very helpful if there was a DayZ style free look, because as it is now, the only way to look around while sprinting is to stop running and turn to check left or right. Third person's perspective may be hard to implement, but you'd only need 45 degrees to the left and right for camera swivel. Or maybe even a GTA style low camera, high camera toggle would be good.
I dig it. Yeah, short answer, it was definitely something that we were exploring. Longer answer is, it's definitely like, the biggest balancing act we have right now is, of course, resource constrained, which is, it's a small shop. So the same person fixing one thing would also be tasked with implementing a new feature. And so, we're just trying to make sure that there's, as much of a sanity check as possible, and that, the team's also, getting some well deserved rest where they can. That's the core of it.
I will say one thing. When you're sprinting, the camera constraint was actually done on purpose to kind of focus on running away. However, you've got me thinking. I think something like a rear view mirror, for lack of a better way to describe it, while you're running, is something we might explore. And I know commitments to this and when it might go in, if it goes in at all, but I'll think about that. Thank you very much for that idea.
Has anything you've seen post early access launch surprised you? Play styles, funny bugs, favorite maps, thirst for harvesters, etc.
I love the memes.
Yeah, the memes are fantastic. We've seen some really spectacular memes. Honestly, like just all the really cool videos people have been making. We saw this really beautiful one recently. The video that Hazy Days did, the last goodbye, is fucking magic. The whole art team was like, he gets it. So that was really cool. We definitely appreciated that a lot. And honestly, like, a lot of the feedback is like, super helpful. Yeah, we did some pretty crazy, pretty weird shit. But I mean, we actually, we take a lot of pride in that. That was kind of the whole reason we did this in the first place. So, we definitely appreciate the community support and bearing with us as we continue to iterate on that and make it even more kick-ass as we go. I mean, honestly, that was kind of that was the whole point of like the whole exercise. And that actually dovetails into something else. So speaking of homies doing really cool shit that is just awesome and kind of breaking out and doing their own thing. My homie David Igo, he's got a Kickstarter going right now. Fucking Street Shark fan, super proud of that homie. It already got funded, but if you guys want to check it out, it's fucking awesome. He was actually incredibly instrumental in just, helping us, talk with different groups and get in touch with like the right people. He's actually helping on us, putting together a deal for the art book as well. So if anything, like, go check out his shit. It's fucking cool. It's called Monstores. Yeah, because like I hope this message kind of came through too, just across the board. Like, we're just down to support homies that are doing really cool stuff, and we want to see more of it. Just across the board, and it's, if anything, that's why we're here.
Yeah, I enjoy jumping in with other players too. I'm circling back. That's a really cool, Miles. I can't wait to check that out too. But I enjoy just randomly jumping into other players' games and seeing what's up. That's been a lot of fun too. If you've seen me lurk, I've got a couple different accounts, and one of them is obviously me, if you've seen this video. And don't be insulted when I'm not accepting every single friend invite I'm getting. It's just, I don't know who you are. I love you, I'm sure, but I also play with friends, so I'm keeping that list to myself.